from the endless steppe, where the horizon stretches without end, where the wind sweeps across grasslands and carries the thunder of hooves, where the sky is vast and the earth unbroken, there arose a family whose blood would shape the fate of empires. Theirs was a name feared in every corner of the known world, a name carried by fire and by sword. And among them was a grandson of Genghis Khan, a man destined to carve his path in the heart of the Islamic world, a man remembered not only for what he destroyed, but also for what he built. His name was Hulagu Khan. Hulegu was born in the year 1217 into the most powerful dynasty the steppe had ever known. He was the son of Tolui, the youngest son of Genghis Khan, a man who had inherited his father's discipline and his ruthlessness. And his mother was Sorgoktani Beki, a woman of Christian faith, born of the Karaites, whose wisdom and statesmanship became legendary. From Tolui came the strength of the Mongol warrior. From Sorgoktani came a vision of politics that stretched beyond conquest. And from Genghis himself came the expectation of greatness, the burden of carrying forward an empire that demanded to expand or perish. Hulegu grew among giants. His elder brother Mongke would one day ascend as Great Khan, master of the entire empire. His brother Kublai would conquer China and build the Yuan dynasty, ruling over one of the most enduring Mongol legacies. His brother Arik Boke would fight bitterly for the throne, plunging the empire into civil war. But Hulegu was marked for another task, not to rule the Mongols as a whole, but to expand the empire into the west, into Persia, into Mesopotamia, into lands where faith and learning flourished, but where political weakness and division left kingdoms vulnerable. When Mongke became Great Khan in the year 1251, he summoned Hulegu. He entrusted him with one of the greatest commands ever given to a Mongol prince. He was to lead the largest army the steppe had yet sent west. He was to bring order to Persia. He was to break the power of the Nizari Ismailis, whose assassins had plagued kings and caliphs alike. He was to confront the Abbasid Caliphate in Baghdad, whose influence extended far beyond his army. And he was to make the Mongol name resound in the heartlands of Islam. For Hulegu, this was not only duty, it was destiny. The empire had given him his purpose. Now he would seize it with fire and steel. For centuries, the Nizari Ismailis had lived in their mountain fortresses. They were few in number, but they were feared by kings and sultans alike. They were known to their enemies as the assassins, masters of the dagger, striking in the shadows, toppling rulers without armies. At the heart of their power stood Alamut, a fortress carved into the mountain, towering above the valleys of northern Persia. Its walls were said to be unbreachable, its location unreachable, and within, legends whispered of secret gardens where initiates were shown visions of paradise, sworn into loyalty that defied death itself. But Hulegu came with an army unlike any the assassins had ever faced. Tens of thousands of horsemen, engines of war brought across mountains, siege towers taller than walls, stone throwers that could break fortresses apart piece by piece. One by one, their strongholds fell. Boulders shattered stone. Flames licked the night sky. The mountain fortresses that had defied sultans now crumbled before the Mongol storm. By 1256, Alamut itself surrendered. The assassins' leader, Rukn el-Din, was taken captive. The order that had haunted the dreams of kings was no more. Their citadels burned, their legends scattered. The dagger that had ruled in secret for centuries was broken by Mongol iron. But for Hulagu, this was only the beginning. For beyond Persia lay the richest prize of all, the city of Baghdad, the jewel of the Mesopotamia, the heart of the Abbasid Caliphate, which for centuries had been the spiritual center of the Islamic world. And it was here, in the shadow of the Tigris River, that Hulagu would change the course of history forever. The armies of Hulagu swept through Persia with fire and precision. City after city bent the knee or faced destruction. Princes who had once thought themselves masters of kingdoms now found themselves vassals to the grandson of Genghis Khan. But Hulagu's eyes looked further, for in the heart of Mesopotamia, beyond the fertile plains watered by the Tigris and the Euphrates, stood Baghdad. The Abbasid Caliphate, once the mightiest empire of Islam, had long since waned in power. Its borders had shrunk, its armies had grown weak, but its name still carried the weight of centuries. To the faithful, the Caliph was the shadow of God upon the earth. To Hulagu, he was an obstacle that must be erased. When Mongke Khan commanded his brother to make the Caliph submit, Hulagu did not hesitate. He gathered his forces and marched west, bringing with him the thunder of the steppe and the terror of conquest. In the winter of 1258, the Mongols stood before the walls of Baghdad. It was a city of learning and splendor, home to scholars, poets, and libraries that preserved the wisdom of civilizations long past. But its walls, though vast, were not strong enough to withstand the engines Hulagu brought with him. Siege towers rolled forward taller than the battlements. Catapults hurled stones that shattered gates and crushed towers. Flaming projectiles rained upon markets and mosques. The Tigris reflected the fire of a city under siege. The Caliph, al-Mustasim, had underestimated the fury of the Mongols. He had trusted in the sanctity of his title, believing no conqueror would dare strike down the seat of the caliphate. But Hulagu was not a man to be swayed by symbols. He was the grandson of Genghis Khan, and he believed only in power. For weeks, Baghdad resisted, but resistance only brought greater destruction. By February of 1258, the walls had fallen, the gates were broken. The Mongols entered, and the city that had been the jewel of the Islamic world was drowned in fire and blood. For 7 days, the Mongols looted and destroyed. Palaces crumbled, mosques were reduced to rubble. The libraries, vast collections of knowledge that had taken centuries to gather, were thrown into the Tigris. It is said that the river ran black with ink and red with blood. The Caliph himself was captured. Hulagu spared his life only long enough to make a statement. The ruler of the faithful was wrapped in a carpet and trampled beneath the hooves of horses, for Mongols would not shed royal blood with steel. The Abbasid Caliphate, once the beating heart of the Islamic world, was ended with the trampling of its last sovereign in Baghdad. The destruction shocked the world. Christendom watched with awe as the city long seen as a rival of Jerusalem was erased. The Islamic world reeled in horror, its spiritual center gone in a single season. And Hulagu Khan's name was etched forever into memory as the man who destroyed Baghdad. With Baghdad in ruins, Hulagu marched further west. His armies entered Syria, where the Ayyubid dynasty, descendants of Saladin himself, still ruled. Cities surrendered one by one, unwilling to face the fate of Baghdad. Aleppo fell, Damascus bowed. The Mongols stood on the edge of Egypt, poised to bring their storm into the lands of the Nile. But fate turned against Hulegu. At that very moment, far away in Karakoram, the great Khan Mongke died. As tradition demanded, Hulegu withdrew the bulk of his forces to attend the election of a new great Khan. He left behind a smaller army, confident that no force in the region could challenge them. But there, in the deserts of Palestine, the Mongols met an enemy unlike any they had faced before. In the year 1260, the Mamluks of Egypt, slave soldiers forged into warriors from their youth, marched out to confront the Mongols. They met at Ain Jalut, a green valley in Galilee. There, the unstoppable tide of Mongol conquest was checked for the first time. The Mamluks lured the Mongols into pursuit, then turned upon them with a fury born of discipline and faith. Their horsemen outmaneuvered, their commander Kitbuka slain. The Mongols were driven from the field. For the first time, a Mongol army had been decisively defeated in open battle. Ain Jalut became a turning point. It saved Egypt from conquest. It preserved the Western Islamic world from falling under Mongol domination. And it marked the limit of Hulagu's expansion to the west. Though he failed to conquer Egypt, he did not return in defeat. Instead, he established his own dominion. From the Persian plateau to Mesopotamia, from the Caucasus to the borders of Anatolia, his realm stretched wide. It became known as the Ilkhanate, one of the great successor states of the Mongol Empire. Hulegu ruled not as a mere general, but as a sovereign. He built palaces and cities. He encouraged trade across his lands, securing the roads that connected east and west. Though remembered as a destroyer, he also became a builder. Under his rule, Persia entered a new age of Mongol administration, blending the traditions of the steppe with the legacies of ancient kingdoms. Hulagu Khan died in the year 1265, leaving his throne to his sons. His dynasty would endure for nearly a century, shaping the politics of Persia and the Middle East. His memory lived in two extremes. To some, he was the scourge of God, the man who burned Baghdad and shattered the Abbasids. To others, he was a ruler who built order from chaos, who laid the foundations of a Mongol state that nurtured art, science, and trade. But in all accounts, his shadow was vast. From the endless steppe to the fertile valleys of Mesopotamia, from the ruins of Baghdad to the courts of Persia, Hulagu Khan remains a figure who cannot be forgotten. For he was both destroyer and builder, a man of fire and stone, a grandson of Genghis Khan, whose story still echoes in the winds of history. And so the story of Hulegu closes, a tale written in fire and stone, of cities taken and kingdoms broken, of empires remade in the image of the steppe. His name endures in the chronicles of both ruin and creation. For some, he is remembered as the destroyer of Baghdad, for others as the founder of a new order in Persia. But for all, his shadow stands as one of history's turning points. If you wish to journey further into the echoes of the past, to walk once more among conquerors, dreamers, and forgotten empires, then let your path continue with us. Subscribe and join the story. For history never sleeps. It waits to be remembered.